Hi friends, welcome to my channel.
My name is Stany Sebastian. Today I'm going to share a video on how to clean and change the radiator coolant of Bajaj Dominar. For that first you require a 4mm Allen key tool to remove the cover of the coolant reservoir. This is the reservoir. Remove the 2 Allen key bolts like this. Now you can use a small Allen key tool like this to remove the plastic clip locks. This is how you can remove the 2 clip locks, then only the coolant reservoir cover will come out. You need to press at the center of the clip lock and the lock will open. Just keep in mind from where you are removing these clip locks. Keep these plastic clip locks somewhere safely. This is the cap of the coolant reservoir, and through here we do coolant top up. You can see coolant written on that cap. Open it. And keep the cap somewhere safely. Now let's open the radiator cap, and for that you need this kind of a tool. This is how you can remove the radiator cap. Turn it anti-clockwise direction. Keep this cap somewhere safely. Now it's time to remove the coolant drain bolt, and for that you need 8mm ring spanner. This is the coolant drain bolt, and you have to turn it anti-clockwise to remove that bolt. You have to keep a basin just below the engine guard so that the coolant won't spill out on your floor. Once you remove this drain bolt, the coolant inside the radiator will come out. Keep the drain bolt somewhere safely. Now we have to remove the coolant from this reservoir as well. And for that you have to use a plier to loosen this hose clip and pull the hose down. Wait for some time for the coolant to drain out completely. After draining the old coolant, close the coolant drain bolt. Close the coolant drain bolt and also fix the hose of the coolant reservoir. Now let's fill the coolant reservoir and radiator with distilled water. You can use a plastic funnel and a hose for filling the distilled water into the radiator and coolant reservoir. I took 5 liters of distilled water for cleaning my Dominar's radiator. After filling the distilled water, start the bike and keep it idle for 5 to 10 minutes till the radiator fan turns on. Distilled water and battery water are the same. Once the radiator fan turns on, switch off the bike and wait for the distilled water to cool down.
Then remove the hose of the reservoir and also the coolant drain bolt.
You can still see green color of the coolant coming out. Once it is completely drained out, close the drain bolt and fix the hose of reservoir. Again, fill the coolant reservoir and the radiator with distilled water. After filling the radiator and the coolant reservoir with distilled water, start the bike and wait for the radiator fan to turn on. You can see air bubbles coming out, and also the distilled water turning dirty. Once the radiator fan turns on, switch off the bike and wait for the distilled water to cool down. Then remove the hose of the reservoir, and also the coolant drain bolt. And drain the distilled water once again completely. Once the distilled water is completely drained out, close the coolant drain bolt and the hose of the coolant reservoir. Again, fill the coolant reservoir and the radiator with distilled water. I have repeated this process 2 to 3 times, just to make sure that the old coolant is completely drained out. And this whole process took me around 1 to 2 hours. After filling the radiator and the coolant reservoir with distilled water, start the bike and wait for the radiator fan to turn on. Once the radiator fan turns on, switch at the bike and wait for the distilled water to cool down. Meanwhile, let me change the old coolant from the plastic basin. Now let's drain the distilled water for the final time. Draining the distilled water, completely close the drain bolt and reservoir hose. Close the drain bolt and the coolant reservoir hose tightly.
Make sure you fix the hose clip of the coolant reservoir tightly like this.
Now it's time to fill the coolant into the radiator and the coolant reservoir. I am using Motul Inugel Expert Coolant for my Dominar. Its color is green. First fill the radiator with the coolant, then fill the coolant reservoir with the coolant. Make sure you buy more than 1 liter coolant, because for my Dominar this 1 liter bottle was not enough. Now let's fill the coolant reservoir with the coolant. Luckily, I was having some leftover coolant with same green color. I will show you that brand later. Once you fill the coolant into the radiator and reservoir, start the bike and wait for some time. You can see air bubbles coming out. You must remove all the air bubbles. Once you remove the air bubbles, you can see the level of the coolant goes down. You have to top up again. Do not switch off the bike. Wait till all the air bubbles goes off. You can see again the coolant level went down. Do coolant top up again. This was the coolant brand which I was talking about. I did my coolant top up with this one. You can see the special features and the direction of use over here. This is the distilled water I used to clean my bike's radiator. See, I told you 5 liters. Once you remove all the air bubbles and check the level of coolant, and then close the cap of radiator and the reservoir, take some normal water and clean the radiator in areas where the coolant has fallen. Don't forget to tighten the radiator cap with the spanner. After checking the coolant level of the coolant reservoir, close the reservoir cover with the Allen key bolts. Now the next coolant change can be done after 10,000 kilometers. Thanks for watching my videos.